Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Fine. Thank you very much for this kind introduction. I would like to give you a presentation about the International Year of Plant Health and the legacy of the International Year of Plant Health. I hope you can see my presentation. I have titled my presentation, Keeping Our World Green. And here Professor Mancuso has already taken a little bit the powder out of my gun. Because also from the space, Earth looks blue and white. For us as land-based mammals, the world is green. And our world is green for the most part. And we have to keep it this way. Before I go into my presentation, I would like to point out when we talk about plant health and pests, and next slide, please. When we talk about pests, we have a special meaning for that. And I put a number of pictures in here to give you an idea what pests are. There is a potato beetle, then there is a Phytophthora fungi, and then there's invasive plant species. We also have, for instance, what many people consider a pest, the American mink, which is in plant health sense actually not a pest. And we have, for instance, my three sons, which I consider quite often a pest, but which in the plant health sense are no pests at all. So if you go to the next slide, you can see what pests are and what pests are not. So go ahead, please, with the slides. Yes. Why do we have an International Year of Plant Health? Because we see, and we have seen in the past 10, 20 years, an unprecedented spread of pests internationally. Not just in Europe, not just in Africa or in the Americas, we have seen it all over. And when you look, for instance, at Italy, with the introduction of Xylella fastidiosa and with, for instance, the brown marmorated stink bug and the Chinese longhorn beetle, Italy has also seen its fair shares of introductions. We also see more and more damages caused by pests. This is partly due to the intensification of our agriculture, but also to some other effects like climate change. And climate change weakens our ecosystems, and it may actually support pests, because in many cases, when you have warming temperatures, trees and other plants get stressed by heat and are then much easier attackable by pests when they infest. Next slide. However, although we have these problems and these increased problems, what we also have seen that actually the public isn't aware of the problem at all. In many cases, the public doesn't know that pests can actually attack plants. We have today so many people who live in cities which are quite disconnected to nature and to plants that they actually don't know what is happening there. For them, plants is a unique mass of green substance. Decision makers also don't know much about pests, and usually what we find is that decision makers very much favor health issues which are connected to tangible objects like animals and of course, like us humans. And that is exactly the same thing for politicians. If you go to the next slide, please. For this reason, Finland and the FAO and the IPPC have worked together to create the International Year of Plant Health, because the International Year of Plant Health is an effort to raise the public and political awareness of plant health, to keep governments and the international community to address these challenges for plant health. That is the intention why we did it. And what do we want to achieve by that? And here I come now to the legacy of plant health. What do we want this International Year to achieve? We want that the public knows about plant health and acts responsibly, for instance, by not distributing pests. We have today many of the pests which are introduced either accidentally on contaminating plant products which move internationally, or sometimes they are introduced by travelers, by tourists, which see a nice plant somewhere in the country, see where they took vacation, they take a clipping, and they try to plant it then at home in their garden. We want that decision makers and politicians understand that that plant health is an important issue and deserves priority. Plants, as it was said beforehand, stand at the base of all life on Earth. And if we do not regard plants properly and do not care about their plant health, we are endangering our own existence. We also want that national plant protection organizations are well funded to undertake their main task, protecting against the introduction of pests. We have seen in many countries in the world that over the recent years or recent decades, the budgets of plant protection organizations have been decreasing. And that, when you consider that international trade has substantially increased over the last 30 years. And what we also would like to see and achieve through the International Year of Plant Health is that plant health research and teaching will be improved, that we have better funding, because that also has gone down over recent years, that funding for plant health related research and teaching has been going down. Now, when we look, what are the concrete achievements we would like to do during this year? It is that the 12th of May is officially recognized as the International Day of Plant Health. We have a study currently in work. Professor Ludovico Golino from the Turin University is the lead author of this study. We would like to have plant health solution to address future challenges that they are investigated and developed. Mr. Montuori from the IPPC Secretariat and the IYPH Secretariat already pointed out that the strategic framework for the IPPC, which has these issues listed, we will have increased funding for plant health research and teaching, and also that plant health will be recognized that it contributes substantially to the prevention of hunger, poverty, and the preservation of our environment. Next slide, please. What we really don't want is pictures like that in the future. Next slide. That our trees, and here you see trees in central Germany, spruce trees, which have died in large quantities in the entirety of the European continent due to the bark beetle, that those trees don't die, that our forests, and please go to the next slide, that our forests will not be dead in 20 years. And here you see large areas in Canada which have been killed by the mountain pine beetle. These are all pine forests which should usually be green. And what we don't want is that what we see currently in North America taking place, and would you go please to the next slide, that because our forests are dying, we have huge forest fires, which are the direct result of huge areas of forest being attacked by pests and killed by pests, and can be set on fire in an instant through lightning. Please go to the next slide. What we also don't want is that our fruits and vegetables die because of pests, and that the livelihood and our ways of life are irreversibly changed. And here you see olive trees in southern Italy dying dead because of Xylella. And it is not just a plant which can be replaced by another plant. When we kill trees, when we kill plants, what we will have is we will change the environment, we will change traditions, we will change social structures. And the olive tree and the olive production in Italy is a perfect example how social structures and traditions can change when, for instance, a certain crop is destroyed. And please go to the next slide. And we don't want that our plants and the environment are irreversibly destroyed. Instead, what we really want is to keep our environment pristine by keeping our plants healthy. Coming to the conclusion of my talk, ladies and gentlemen, and here, I would like to make a point that plant health is not just something where we try to protect our own country. The Plant Protection Service of each country should not only protect our own country, we must work globally. Because plant health is an important tool to prevent hunger and to prevent some effects of climate change. And when you look at it, hunger and climate change will impact around the world and cause environmental degradation, wars, economic crisis, and consequently mass migration movements. What we see currently in Africa, ladies and gentlemen, is that because of plant pests, here it is the fall armyworm and also the desert locust, which has seen enormous damages this year. In sub-Saharan Africa, a food insecurity crisis is growing large nowadays. We will have in the future hunger in Africa because of pests and climate change. And the people who live in sub-Saharan Africa, they will not stay in sub-Saharan Africa when there's nothing to eat. They will not stay to die there. They will go somewhere else. And the places where they will go will be the places where there's still food. And that's Europe. And so we may see in the future quite a movement because of climate change, because of hunger, because of plant pests reducing the possibility for people to grow food. We will see mass migration movements which will dwarf everything what we have seen until now. If we do not act globally to get these challenges under control, we will not only be fighting for plant health in Europe, we will protect our own way of life in Europe because of the effects somewhere else. And we have to help to prevent it. And for that, we need to increase the global efforts to improve plant health globally, because that may actually prevent the effects. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Grazie per l'attenzione, and I hope that I was not talking too long.